from the new Lionel Beaver Studios in the confines of Northern Ontario. It is the Star Wars Commonwealth Plus Roundtable, and this is our New Year's Eve. 2020's over. Like it or not, I know it was a great year for a lot of people, but we got to move forward, people. We have to move forward, but we're here to help you. But I'm not alone. I'm going to introduce my roundtable real fast, all the way from San Diego, California, which might as well be the moon compared to where I'm sitting in Northern Ontario, Canada. Andre from the San Diego Sabers. Say hi, Andre.
Good morning, everybody.
And of course, I have to have my Canadian friends. I have to have one on the left coast. My good friend Rob Williams. How you doing, Rob? Generation X-Wing Podcast represented again.
Hello there. How are you guys?
Very good, thank you. And of course, I knew Kyle was on, so I'm wearing my Expos hat. So Kyle from Tumblingsaber, he needs no introduction. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm good. I appreciate the nod. I saw the hat on the head, and I was like, first of all, you saved me the glare. Second of all, you give me some Expos love. I love it.
Stay tuned. There's a couple things. You might hear something about a drive-in in 77, and you might see a Lobot impression. That's kind of the new. If you're playing the Roundtable bingo card, that's what you got to check off. And of course, this is awesome. The maker is with us. One of the founding members of our original network, the founding member of Talk Star Wars, which is this roundtable is still a part of. Marc Godsiff, all the way from the UK. Welcome, Marc.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure to be with you awesome guys once again.
Well, we just thank you for coming on. And for those in the know, Marc and I, we used to do a lot of stuff together. We did a comics podcast through Talk Star Wars. Of course, the Roundtable was started out on Talk Star Wars. We did a celebration together. We got a lot of history. Just because you left Talk Star Wars doesn't mean we fell out of touch. This isn't like, I haven't seen you in 3 years. No, we weren't podcasting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm now referring to myself as a recovering podcaster.
Oh,
I've clearly fallen off the wagon for this hour.
Well, we appreciate it. I think,
and Rob cast the pusher man. He just keeps drawing you back in.
I have more.
Just one visit. Yeah,
I have more podcasts. How do I say this politely? Virginities. In my. Because I think there's a few of them that went on to start podcasts in this group. I know Retro 8 Podcast. There's a guy on there. When he started out, first words were on this ads. Night of the Commonwealth. First words were over a podcast. We're on this show. So it's something. It's like almost like being like a den mother. Like it's like you take these little hatchlings and you just they come on and they're timid and scared, and then they go out and they.
Yeah, definitely not a dealer, Rob. Definitely a dealer. No. A den mother.
Just call it as it is, Rob. You're a kingmaker. That's it.
No. All right, so let's get. We try to keep this nice and tight to an hour because we got a full roundtable this time around. We had a lot of announcements come out. I think we might save a little bit. Let's save our comments on there was an appearance by some guy on the Mandalorian. I don't know. We'll save that till the end, but we got a lot of stuff that's been announced. A lot of stuff was just dropped on us. I'm going to throw it to, let's say, Kyle first. Out of everything that's been announced, even just the last month, what's tickling your fancy in the Star Wars world?
Oh, boy. I almost want to say just pick something out of a hat, and I'm excited. I'm excited for all of it, basically. But the things that have me revved up the most, I would have to say, I'm going to go with the Rogue Squadron movie from Patty Jenkins, just because that came out of left field. So that just caught me square in the jaw, and I'm stoked to see what she's going to do. Other than that, Ahsoka, one of my favorite top 3 Star Wars characters of all. So that's right up on the list. And of course, Kenobi. Who doesn't want to see Ewan McGregor back in that role with Hayden Christensen? So those are the 3 that really have me revved up right now. But I think on top of that, it's just something like the Acolyte has me most intrigued, if I can make that distinction.
Okay, let me rephrase the question then. Is what are you least looking forward to as far as these new? And again, I'm not trying to. This is a positive podcast. I'm not trying to poo-poo anything. For me, that the news about the Bad Batch it's like, it was cool in the Clone Wars, but is it something I want? I'm like, I'm sure. I wasn't sure about the Mandalorian when they announced it. So, but now yes, they apparently they know what I want. Is something like that with you? Is there anything?
I guess just by default, the bottom rung of the ladder would be occupied by a droid story. I'm still going to watch it and probably really enjoy it.
They should have the same theme song they did back in the Droids, that Sting sounding song.
Oh no. Dear!
Oh, that was the best.
Hey! If for those watching live, you can't see it. It's behind my light. There's an animation cell of C-3PO from the Droids.
Nice.
So, and also I'm an astromech builder. So, Kyle,
is he in the room? Is he there?
He's upstairs.
Oh,
I know.
What's your Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, he is actually. Yeah, and when my kids get sick, I can put them in the corner of their room and they can just watch them, make sure no worms come in and eat my kids. So Kyle, so the astromech is it just, or the astromechs, the droid stories. I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard much other than just the splash title. Like, is there something? Is it going to be like, oh, here this episode's about R5 and this episode's about...
Well, I guess that's part of it is because there's so little info about it that what is there really to get excited about other than it's a story about droids and a new hero. I'm not sure if it's animated or live action. I think it's animated, but I don't know. I mean, it feels like they've got a wedge of lemon. It's been squeezed and they're going to squeeze a little more out of it. On the flip side, I'll be happy to hear Anthony Daniels back at least one more time. So there'll be stuff to pull out of it for sure. And it's probably going to be a riot. I'll watch it with my kids. They're probably going to love it to death. And I'll probably be pleasantly surprised. So that's where I like to keep it. Expectations low. Yeah. And that way, when it happens, I'll go, hey, that was worth it.
I think that's exactly what happened with, I'm not going to spoil anything with Wonder Woman. When that came out originally, Patty Jenkins is like, oh, what has she done before? I don't know. I'm not familiar. And then who's this Gal Gadot? I don't. And then it's like, wow, this movie's fantastic. And then the bar was raised so high that even though Wonder Woman 84 it's a great comic book movie, there's no way you can clear it. It's one of those things where it was like, when we first see it, it's like, oh, we have no expectation. I mean, we could say that with Phantom Menace. There was a lot of expectation with Phantom Menace. I mean, like that bar.
What? Really?
Yeah.
No.
All right, going around the table. Andre, what are your thoughts? A lot of new stuff coming out.
I'm obviously excited by Ahsoka. That she is currently, top 3 Star Wars character for me because of all of them, she's had the most screen time and best character development. So I can't wait to see what that produces and how that links back with Mandalorian and the other stories. I'm actually kind of more excited about Acolyte. It's set in the end of a High Republic, so they have no timeline constraints. I'm getting either a Sith or Force magic vibe from it, and that excites me. That kind of takes you away from the fundamentalism of Jedi type mentality. So there's a lot of possibility for creativity and storytelling. Least favorite or least excited about is probably Andor. I'm droids. It's going to be fun. I expect it to be, written for a third grader, and on a Saturday morning, I'm right there. But Andor, because his finale point. You kind of limit your story options, I think. I mean, if they can tell the story well, I'll be excited. Any more lore and backstory, I love. But by putting you're having finality to the character already and a limited time spectrum, it just kind of feels stunted or handicapped.
Right. Exactly. No, I know. I hear you. I hear you. Rob Williams, thoughts? Is there
I was nodding my head when you said Andor. That's my least favorite. I have no desire to see that. I probably will. I'm just Star Wars fan. But okay, give me another Star Wars show. But I mean, I still like the holiday special. But Andor is just the character I found boring. I did not I'm one of the few that did not like the movie, but I do put a part of the blame on myself on Rogue One because of my expectations going in. I do put part of the blame on Star Wars and the trailers for hyping up something that did not exist. But yeah, sorry, I don't mean to get negative, but Andor is my least favorite. And I'm just not into that sort of thing. Droid Story, you mentioned Droid Story. I was like, Tales of the Sandcrawler was a book that should have been written after Tales of the Cantina and Tales of the Jabba's Palace. And I was always thinking there's some great stories of how those droids got into that Sandcrawler. So this idea that you're saying, again, I'm putting my hopes up, but ideas of hearing about R5D4. How did he get to what happened after? He ends up in Mandalorian, right? And it's just all these droid stories of things would be really cool. And I can see C-3PO being the narrator and being the storyteller like he does in Jedi. So that'd be kind of cool. Lando looks cool. I like the style of Lando. I'm curious to see what time it is, whether it's just whether it's after Return of the Jedi, before Return of the Jedi, before Solo, what's going on? I would really like to see what's going on with that one and who's going to play Lando as well. My buddy Anil, my co-host, had a great idea about him being the storyteller. Yeah. Did I tell you the story about, and just go on and on about some sort of droid that he hooked up with. So, top it all, I think Ahsoka is going to be great, but on my list above everything else is Tales of Boba Fett. The Book of Boba. That surprised me at the end, and not just because the fact that Reeves is alive. I'm going to go on to. Have I ever told you the story about Reeves? The fact I saw him there just made me excited alone, but this also, as a big Return of the Jedi fan, seeing some of these characters return, like Tessic the Quarren, a bit of saw Bib return. Maybe we'll see more Bosk and Dengar. What happened after that whole sail barge thing? What there's a story that needs to be told there, and obviously Boba, how the heck did he get out of that pit? And so it's like I mentioned this on one of my videos. It's like a Disney version of The Sopranos. And I'd like to see what's going on with all this. And then we could probably see, and we got Ming-Na Wen in any show. It's magic. So
she's amazing.
Yeah. And did Bib Fortuna discover carbs?
Did he ever? Well, remember the book, he was supposed to have his, I know it's not canon anymore. He's supposed to have his brain taken out and put inside those Bomar monks and hang around the palace as it's a church again, or monastery. And so obviously that story doesn't exist unless he got out and he was like, what you been doing with my body? At least work it out. Put it back in the skull. But I'd be very curious to see the whole story of how it happened. So we might get a flashback. They can't get rid of a lot of these costumes. They got a reuse costume now. They've got a Tessic. They got tons of Quarren costumes. They got all these sort of things. So I can see them reusing these costumes and reusing the Bib Fortuna a little bit, kind of before and after sort of thing. So
excellent. Mark, same question going around. What do you, again, there's a lot to choose from. And
there is, Ahsoka is obviously high on my list, if not the top, because of the name drop she had in The Mandalorian, which I'll try not to spoil just in case. Don't know what we're doing with spoilers in that regard. And where that show is pointing. So definitely Ahsoka. Yes. Obi-Wan, of course, because that has been on my wish list for years, even before this was being discussed. I was hoping for a movie. But I think I'm not trying to be contrarian, but Andor has really caught my imagination. And there's a couple of things I know the guys have said it's maybe, where Cassian's story goes, and maybe it's not the most original thing to dip into that character's pre-story. But there is something I picked up in some of that footage, that there's a character that's being deliberately obfuscated in that trailer that we saw, that teaser, in some of the boards, the art design behind some of the talking heads are being fogged out, defocused. So that's caught my imagination. I want to know who, it's a woman by the looks of things. I want to know who she is and what her role is in this. And I know we know what's happening to Cassian, but as with most characters where that their end destination, their final destination, or the fact that they're impervious like Superman, some of the best things you can do is introduce a supporting character who they care about and make those the character that's at risk. So this woman that's on the artwork that they're trying to keep from us, I'm dead keen to see who that is and where this story goes. I think she might be the person that we're really watching during Andor.
Okay.
People know how the Titanic ended, but yeah, it's still grossed millions and millions of dollars because of the story that led up to it. So
yeah, exactly. And I think from just to top it off for myself, it would have to be what do I want? Ahsoka. Just I think that's one of those ones. I've watched it for my adult life. That's kind of a weird thing because I've been with all these characters from day one. But as those at home playing the Round Table Bingo, I saw the original Star Wars at a drive-in theater in 1977 with my parents. But anyway, I just had to get that out. But so I think out of Kenobi, Ahsoka, yeah, they're tops. And again, it's so hard. It's just going to be. It's almost like splitting hairs. I have no idea what's going to be my favorite. Obviously, I have an affinity for the droids that are coming out. I'll be watching that. I'm a little leery because of the original adaptation of the Droids cartoon back in the 80s, but we had a holiday special a long time ago, and they redid that. And the new one's, I mean, as charming as the first one was. Whipster whip, but the new one is actually is really the Lego one is fantastic. So, I'm not. What happened before isn't going to scare me off. But again, I think the Bad Batch. I don't know. It was in the Clone Wars. I thought that it seems in hindsight, it seems like they're in that Bad Batch batch was in there knowing what was going to happen. They had something else lined up, so they had to create a little bit of history, because they had limited episodes on the Return to Clone Wars. Do we need that in there? They could have done a lot more, but now we know in hindsight, well, maybe, yeah, they wanted this little story arc because it's going to eventually spin off into their own show. So I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm just, out of everything, it's kind of like this big Star Wars buffet right now. You mean the Bad Batch is like the broccoli? It's like, oh, I'm sure I'm going to put some on my plate, absolutely, but I'm not going to let it take. You mean the chicken balls or the shrimp or no. I'm not going to steer anything else away because of it.
I'm very curious about when the Bad Batch, if the Order 66 moment. I'm wondering what the situation with that is. And I'm wondering if that is how things are started, because do they have the chip? Are they immune to the chip? What's going on with that? So that's my biggest curiosity out of that one.
Hopefully that's the primary storyline or part of the storyline at the beginning. That's what I'm hoping for.
Has it just a mini series? Is it like going to be a repeating series? What is it?
Don't remember reading that.
I just animated. That's what I am.
They've got Fennec is going to be in it. At least for an episode or two or something, make an appearance. So that kind of interests me too.
For the nerds here, which is all of us. So Fennec Shand, let's backtrack a little bit to episode 7. There's a bunch of criminals who come take over Han's ship. There's those guys with the circle faces, and then there's another group. There's a Shand in there. Isn't there a criminal whose last name is Shand?
Yeah, one of the not the Guavian Death Gang, the other guys, Kanja Club.
Kanja Club. Thank you very much.
Rob. There is somebody whose last name in that group is Shand.
I just think nothing's by accident on that.
It's hard. Yeah, I tend to think that nothing happens by accident in Star Wars at that level. That name was selected for a reason. Who knows? Just curious,
because that could be her son eventually over time. So, and maybe Boba's son. Maybe they have I would love child, and moves on, and everybody and the whole world is related to each other. So.
Yeah, that's
a baby from the Robo womb.
Well, that's what it is. It's built there. It's the incubation thing right inside there. It's the new version. You update it.
That was the only misstep in that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird. I couldn't figure out how it all worked, but Star Wars.
Yeah. Maybe they do like a mini Camino in there and just have a bunch of baby Bobas still coming out.
That's what they do with the clone guy they got off the ship. I got another job for you, by the way. I want to create another mini me. So
All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to let this be known to everybody out there because there's a few things I want to touch on, and there's stuff we have to talk about. If you have not seen season 2 of The Mandalorian, as much as I hate to do this, go away because and if it hasn't been spoiled for you already.
Good on you.
No kidding.
What crave are you living in?
Yeah, you're definitely not on social media. You're not watching this on Facebook. You're not around any of us. So, okay. So here on out, we can go ahead, spoil a bit. I'll let somebody else touch on that last little bit, how they ended. I mean, that was weird. But anyway, I've seen a bunch of memes where they're saying, I mean, you see the one with J.J. Abrams saying you can't please everybody, like the OG crowd and the prequel and the sequel crowd, and John Favreau was like, "Hold my beer." Those moments. This is happening. What we wanted as OT fans, or what I wanted. I'm not going to speak for everybody. I wanted what happened after Jedi, right? Again, because that's where I left off. I wanted to know what happened after Jedi. And then the only thing I had after Jedi was a Thrawn trilogy. And now, what name pops up 5 years after Jedi? Mm-hmm. Thrawn. You know what I mean? And now we have this new character, Ahsoka, that's sprinkled in. And that's, you know what I mean? So that's awesome. And of course, there's links to Ezra and Sabine and all that other stuff. So basically what we're having is what we wanted as OT fans. And again, with the Thrawn trilogy in the early 90s, because that was the only thing we had.
Yeah.
It's like, a lot of us craved it. So now we're getting 5 years after Jedi. What's happening with Luke? What's happening with the Jedi Order? Now you're getting hints of Thrawn and everything else. It's like basically somebody was listening to me, I guess. I don't know. Like again, and I like the sequel trilogies. I got nothing wrong. If you're going to put out a new Star Wars show or Star Wars movie, I don't have to love it, but I'm not going to go online and poo-poo it. The Resistance Guard animated series wasn't for me, but it's not like I'm going to, scorch the earth because they made something that Rob Cass disagrees with. Like is it entertained by, or is it even made for someone, a 47-year-old white guy from Sudbury, Ontario? Like, so you know what I mean? Like again, I'm venting at.
It was in their mission statement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was in the opening crawl.
Oddly specific.
Yeah, exactly. Rob, stop watching.
What did you do at Celebration, Rob? Who did you upset?
Which one? But now I'm seeing this Mandalorian. It's got that old school look. It's filmed very similar. We're getting a lot of there's fan service everywhere. Even the Reese fans are excited. Well, the Reese fan. They're not
in the room.
No, it's me and Ben. Me and Ben from Skyhoppers.
Ben's love is notorious.
Yes. And of course, the reveal at the end, I'm sure most of us saw this coming, but Luke Skywalker making an appearance as a Jedi Knight. So around the horn, I'm going to throw it to Kyle first, just because keep things in order. So what are you thinking of this new Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, Thrawn? Yeah,
it seems like they've built themselves almost an MCU style universe on the Disney Plus side of things, where they've planted lots of different seeds for them to explore. And the way I'm thinking of it, I think Lucasfilm, in tandem with Disney, has sort of evolved what their plan is. Whereas, we've just celebrated the 8th year of Disney taking over. And so I think originally, of course, they had, Disney Plus was not really a thing in their brain at that time. So everything was about theatrical releases. And eventually now we are in 2020, moving out of it, and it's all about Disney Plus and how are we going to populate this platform. And so I think they've evolved from we can now space out our movies because we don't know what the hell we're doing post episode 9. We don't know what direction to take this. We don't know. It seems like theatrical fans want two separate things, and how do you make that a coherent thing for a theatrical release? So, okay, let's put that aside for a minute and let's just mine the hell out of Disney Plus and let's give them all kinds of stuff. Let's talk about Luke. Let's throw in Grand Admiral Thrawn. Let's bring Ahsoka back into the mix, and let's build this all. It seems like with Ahsoka, And with Mandalorian, Rangers of the New Republic, which we didn't mention before, but that's part of it. It seems like they're doing this MCU-style build-up towards a confrontation with Thrawn and his forces, perhaps, which might lead us closer to the sequel trilogy and the First Order origins. That's kind of where my head's at. I'm excited for that. I'm always one to say, like, I want to go forward. I want to see what happened after Rise of Skywalker. I want to go past all this stuff. I don't want to worry about the backstory and the lore, the details. But it seems like Star Wars fans almost split down. I want the backstory of the lore, the details, the checkmark, the boxes. I want that info, and pushing ahead. But I'm an easy mark. I will take it all. I'm a bottomless hole when it comes to Star Wars content. So bring it all on. I'm excited for all of it, and especially now that they've fleshed it all out, it seems like to me that this might be where it's headed.
I gotta agree with you, but also I'm by wars. I'm also a big Star Trek fan, and what people wanted most when the reboots are happening, everything else, it's like, no, what happens after when Voyager finished? What's next?
Yes.
Like everybody was like, yes, I get it. Kirk. Yeah, he was awesome. Okay, cool. Whatever. It was just, you know what I mean? It's almost that same sentiment where like, let's push forward a little bit here, even though there's lots to be mined, but there's lots to be done. But it's just, it's just give us something. Tell us, we want to turn the page on the story.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The biggest, the biggest analogy I can come up for it is we've all these 40 years, we've had a puzzle. And we put the puzzle together, and then after Return of the Jedi came out, the puzzle was complete. And then the prequels came around, and we said, oh, it's not complete, actually. We built the bottom half of the puzzle, so now we're going to build the top half of the puzzle. And then Disney took over. Turns out, oh, we didn't have that at all. So you got to redo the puzzle and fill it in again. And it seems like with every announcement, the same puzzle is just being reorganized. We're rebuilding the edges of the puzzle and then filling it in again. What I'm hoping for at some point is to say, this puzzle is now complete. And you push it to the side and say, take the box, empty the pieces on the floor. We're building a new puzzle. It doesn't connect to that one.
Right.
And other than by name.
Yep. No, and I agree with you. And again, like I was saying, with wanting to turn the page on the next chapter, that was my sentiment. I understand 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Yes, that is before Force Awakens, but you mean that's my next page. Again, I understand that's kind of going backwards a bit, but again, it's just wanting to continue our favorite stories. Andre, this Mandalorian, Thrawn, Luke back. You're a Saber guy. You must have known, right?
I'm leaning on the heretical, because even though I understand why Luke came back and he's a fan favorite, and I appreciate him, I actually was kind of disappointed that it was him.
Oh, okay.
Cool. I just wanted something that didn't have a Skywalker fingerprint in it. I kind of, when you put Skywalker in there, then once again you're starting to put, fan expectations and handicapping yourself, going, okay, well, now we kind of know what Luke kind of was doing during this time period, so now we have our expectations that are different. No, I too am a Star Trek fan. Actually, Star Trek was my original fandom. My first.
How do we end this call again? Nobody answered that.
Yeah, this is my one and only appearance on the round table. But I am currently watching the new Star Trek, and I appreciate the fact that they literally jump 1,000 years. That's also why I'm really excited about the High Republic stuff. It's even though it's backwards in the timeline, it is untapped time period. There's no real weights that you have to, or anchors that you have to really hit besides certain basics. So when you brought Luke back in, like I said, and you traditionally we only had like 2 or 3 choices. Yes. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I didn't fist pump the whole the fight scene with the Death Troopers. I didn't have that moment, but at the same time, I'm like, could we have done something different? And these guys have done beautiful storytelling. I have absolute faith in what they're going to do next, because they have yet to disappoint me. Even though they had a couple of distraction episodes, which when we only have 8, I'd rather have more. But by bringing Luke in, you've kind of put our expectations in a certain spot where I don't know if I want to have those expectations.
Who would you have chosen?
I don't know. That's the thing. They didn't put any groundwork for any of the other characters. Ezra would have been fun, because it would have been an interesting point if they have Ahsoka and the Thrawn stuff pretty mapped out. Because then you just kind of throw that out there. You push Mandalorian back a season because then you put Boba in there, and then you put Ahsoka, and then you bring Mando back. But that's Andre fantasy, but you and I fantasize about completely different things. Anyway, continue.
Fair
enough. I want a broader scope of storytelling, and when you bring Luke in, you kind of put our expectations in a certain flow of direction. And I could be wrong. In a year's time, we get together again. You can grab a big rock, smack me in the head with it because I was wrong. But currently, I'm leaning that way.
Okay.
But yeah, we don't have other Jedi to choose from.
Just while I got you on the comparison to Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, their saber fighting abilities. Was that?
Oh, that was exciting.
I'm not in the know, and
Okay.
I've had this conversation. I used to have this conversation with Steve all the time. I'm like, oh, when Obi-Wan killed Maul at the end of Rebels, that looked familiar. He's like, yeah, of course, Rob. Blah, 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 he goes on, he explains it to me.
Yes.
So I'm asking you.
Yes.
We seen the side by sides with Rogue One and with the Mandalorian. What is there something us laymen's are missing?
No. It's they obviously took their cues from the Rogue One scene. Mm-hmm. There are those who are speculating on, well, is that dark side stuff? And most of it isn't, in my opinion. Except for maybe the crushing the bot at the end. That kind of was a little overkill.
That's why they were droids, though, right? That's why they made those
that's
droids.
Why. So that he wasn't killing, that's kept him in his Jedi line. No, the style is similar. I mean, it's where you get the difference between like Ahsoka's fighting style, which is very active and physical, which Rosario did a lot of that. But when you look at Obi-Wan, you look at Qui-Gon, you look at Luke, they tend to be very more linear, very straightforward, a lot more effortless they're just kind of moseying through. Right. Where there's that's different, the different forms, and I could geek a little bit on that, but it's not necessary. But no, it showed that he got some of that training from Obi-Wan, which same with Anakin did.
Right.
So that kind of there's touch points there. And so no, it's the choreography was obviously had both scenes in mind. So I wouldn't go too nuanced on Form 1 versus Form 3 or Form 5 type thing, but no, it's obviously showing that he's reached master level in his fighting, at least in my opinion.
Fantastic.
Can I throw a hot take on top of that?
Sure.
So we've seen the shot, of course, Vader in the hallway with the saber ignited versus Luke. For me, what that scene brought about is that everybody in the galaxy is terrified of anybody with a glowing death stick.
Yeah.
Like a rave.
In Rogue One, we see Vader through the eyes of those hapless guards, right? And they're all screaming for their lives. Vader's walking through and he's chopping them all up without even a sweat. And it's kind of the same thing in Mando, where we see Luke's actions through the eyes of Bo-Katan, Din Djarin, all the people on the bridge, including Moff Gideon, who's terrified with Luke here. And we're watching Luke mow through these dark troopers, which gave our Mandalorian all kinds of fits. So I don't see it as necessarily a tribute like father, like son kind of thing. Here's badass Luke. To me, it's everybody is afraid of Jedi and Sith. So the last 5 years of Star Wars have done this graying of things, good and evil. That's just a point of view, and that's all that stuff has kind of been muddied. And I think what we got was some of that as well, where it's people are afraid of the Jedi. They don't understand him. They're terrified of. They're terrified of Luke Skywalker. We're crying. I'm crying watching Luke, my hero. He's back, and we're all fist pumping and going crazy because we know Luke. But everybody else is terrified of this guy, and I think that's a story point that has kind of gone and amidst all the happiness and joy, went under the radar.
Yeah, and also with the Empire saying that Jedi are trash for the last 20 years in that universe. You mean, of course he's going to be free. I was probably the only one. I thought when I saw the X-Wing, I thought maybe Porkins lived, and boy was I disappointed.
Oh man!
Who wouldn't be?
One TIE fighter. It's Perkins. Never mind. All right, Rob Williams. And can you keep your E's comments to under 15?
I'm done. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. No, so we're talking about it. The end of Mandalorian.
Knocking on your door, pushing my religion here.
Yes.
So first of all, when we're talking about Jedi's, I understand what you're saying, Andre, because I did not think they would actually go there. I didn't think they would actually go to Luke. It was too obvious in my mind. I mean, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was the best. Cal Kestis, possibly, if you know Fallen Order. I just thought maybe if you're going into that little thing, you can possibly Cal Kestis there as a guy who's not known well, but a representative of Luke to pick up, hey, you got my message, that sort of attitude thing. Leia, I was thinking, could that be another one? It's just too much. Who else? I couldn't see. You couldn't have anybody else really. So I really enjoyed it. As for one of the things I noticed, people complaining about the deep fake on this. I, for years, been watching a puppet Yoda. I've been for a couple of years now. I've been watching a puppet Baby Yoda. It's never real to me, but we learn to, as fans, as movie watchers, to put that aside. My favorite movie next to the Star Wars is Tron Legacy.
Oh, definitely.
And the facial stuff they did to make him young is not perfect, but I put that aside. It's actually really good. I can lose myself into it because it is a digital world. So when I see things like, it wasn't true to Force, there was that uncanny valley sort of thing, but I put that aside. And if I can put it aside for a puppet Baby Yoda, and it's not perfect. The Baby Yoda is, when it walks, there's still a part of me is like, it's still a puppet, but you put it aside because it's the story and he sells it with the story. So when Luke came back and I was like, no, how are they going to do this? My brain was questioning how is this Luke? How awesome is this? And it's my favorite. You talked about memes. My favorite one is that picture of those two kids just with the AT-AT and the Scout Walker just playing with toys back in the 80s, just look like they're having the best time of their life. And this is like what was the quote they said? This is
Favreau and Filoni.
Thank you, Favreau and Filoni planning out the Star Wars world, and it's just these two kids having fun, and this is their sandbox, and I'm loving it. Filoni is the new Lucas, and may I say almost better. You can't say better because it is Lucas's stuff, but he knows how to tell a story, knows humor. Favreau, I just watched a bit of the Elf movies, how it's made. Christmas how it's made. Yeah, it's the one.
There it is.
He's a great storyteller because he has the heart of Star Wars as a kid. And I think that's what's fun about this. And sometimes the obvious can work. They've done fan service well. Now, there will be a point, I think, they will push the boundaries, and that's fine. That's just what happens. You're not going to hit it out of the park every time. But I'm really enjoying this, and I think Luke Skywalker was fantastic. I'm curious to see what will happen. I have a feeling Baby Yoda, or I keep calling Baby Yoda, I think Grogu will come back. I think we will focus just on Mando for the next little while because of the whole Mando story and the sword and everything. But it might be a nice little break to have Grogu go away for a little bit and come back at the end of season 3. So
yeah, I agree with you, and also too with the Dave Filoni takeover as like kind of like the Star, not the showrunner, but the universe runner. I mean, he's with George Lucas. It would be like if Elton John goes on stage and plays a wrong note. People go, "Oh, you played that song wrong." You go, "No, I just rewrote it. It's my song." Right? But if I play an Elton John song, it's like you played a wrong note. It's like, yeah, you got me. So Filoni Lucas had that autonomy where it was just like, yeah, that's that prequels, or that was weird, or that first Clone Wars movie. It's like, hey, it's my song. Too bad. Like I made this. So like Jon Favreau and Filoni, they don't have that get out of jail free card because it's not theirs. You mean it's almost like they have this. You can call them out on, oh well, that doesn't quite match that. But Filoni's, either him. I know I've seen him in panels live. I think I was talking to my daughter about this the other day, 5 or 6 times at various conventions around North America. And I think like his knowledge is just so, he's the go-to guy. Like he's the one, he's almost like, where they, it's like, can we do this? Like, I know he has a lot of staff and there's a lot of other names I'm not going to drop, but so Rob Williams, you're thinking.
I'd also got to mention Filoni must have a tremendous amount of respect in this world, this Star Wars world. He talked a couple of years ago, about his tree of trust, I think it was.
Yep.
And so many people are on this tree of trust. The fact, and Hamill said this, the fact that Luke was kept a secret, the fact that the name Grogu was kept a secret for this long, there must be a lot of respect for those who are in the business to keep their mouth shut, as well as Filoni's ability to keep the cage tight, his tree of trust tight, because very few people knew about this. I mean, we had David Prowse, God bless him, spoiling Luke's parentage, and but now we have, in the world of digital social media, this wasn't leaked, and that's an amazing thing. So,
yeah, well, just to reinforce your point there, Rob, in the lead up to Rise of Skywalker, I think there was a Vanity Fair piece, and Kathleen Kennedy specifically said, actually, I think it was more in promo talking about The Mandalorian. She said that there's not a thing they do story-wise that they don't run through Dave Filoni.
Nice.
So take for that what you will. If they run every single story and every single media through Dave Filoni, that's a lot. And whether or not they take his feedback and edit based on his feedback, who knows? But she said that they run everything through Dave Filoni.
Well, she knows better than anybody now. That's like, oh, you can't do that because that's going to contradict this, and we've put this out already under your banner, so you can't. You mean like so? Or he might say, yeah, you can do that. That was in the books. Mark, you've heard of this Luke guy, right?
Yeah. George Luke.
Thoughts?
Is that the one? Yeah. My mind was blown watching that episode. It was everything I wanted. Rob, you mentioned a couple of times we're the original generation of Star Wars fans, the projected generation.
Yes.
This is all I've wanted since I was a kid. This is all I wanted to see was Luke after Return of the Jedi. What did he do next? Did he go and become a moisture farmer on Tatooine, or did he become this Jedi Knight? And there's my answer. And I'm hoping that this is the first step between bridging the gap between Jedi and The Force Awakens. And perhaps there's an entire generation of space where they can tell these stories now. And what we've been discussing, Filoni and Favreau, they are a two-man George Lucas. You've got one that's so studiously steeped in the lore of Star Wars. He studied at the feet of George Lucas. And the other one, Favreau, is building the world and building the technology that they can tell these new stories in. The way Lucas did in the 70s, building ILM, building everything from the ground up. Favreau's doing that now, creating the space that Filoni can tell the stories in. So they're two men doing the work of one. And I have nothing but faith in them. And that last 5 minutes of the Mandalorian season finale was proof to me that these guys can do it. And it really hit me in the feels watching that guy go.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's like, but they did it right. It's not like if you were a child of the 80s and somebody said in 2020, you're going to see a Playboy magazine and it's going to have Dolly Parton in it. You'd be like excited at first, but then you'd be like, oh, wait a second, 2020? What? You know what I mean? So, but that's what I mean. And again, you can poo-poo the CGI all you want, but it was cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we have Photoshop now. It's cool. I'll happily open that magazine. I'm not, for me, it was like once Grogu was sitting on that, once Ahsoka said this, you got to go to this temple. He's got to sit on this rock. I'm like, oh, I know what's happening. I don't know if it was confidence or just hope. You know what I mean? And again, that's what Star Wars is all about, isn't it? Hope. If that's the thing it leads us to have, even, and maybe that's why people get disappointed so much, because they do carry a lot of hope. All right, we're going to try to keep this tight to an hour, and with such a big roundtable, and we're all podcasters, so we're very all long-winded, including myself. I'm going to kick it around the horn. This is, if by the time you listen to this, it'll be the new year already, but this is literally New Year's Eve, 2020. So, Kyle, 2021, again, we're not talking about coronavirus. We're not talking about anything like that. It's just Tumblingsaber, what's happening? Again, we've already talked about what you're looking forward to on the shows. What's 2021 have in store with Tumblingsaber?
Well, we're going to take a little bit of a slow start to it for sure. I'm starting a new life adventure as we roll into the new year, so I want to make sure that goes right. So Tumblingsaber, for the early part of 2021, it'll be not dormant. I don't want to use the hiatus word, but we're taking a slow start just to make sure that the actual priorities in life are taken care of before I get back to the podcast table. But once I'm back at it, we're going to be still talking to all the news, all the books, comics, video games. I thought 2020 was going to be a quiet year across the board, and it turned out to be an absolute bonanza of news and rumors and stories to talk about. So I'm through assuming that 2021 is going to be one way or the other. I'm just sitting here waiting for the Star Wars tidal wave to hit me, and I can't wait to get back at the table at some point and start breaking it all down and getting back with the team and start having some fun again.
Fantastic. And also too, I have to say as a side note, yes, I am a Toronto Blue Jays fan, but nothing would make me happier and I'm sorry to our Tampa Bay friends, but if the Tampa Bay Rays moved to Montreal and the Expos and renamed the Expos again, and we had a division where you had the Boston Red Sox, the Baltimore Orioles, the New York Yankees, the Toronto Blue Jays, and Montreal Expos, nothing would make me happier. Of course, it's AL ball, cool. But hey,
I'll take it. I will take it.
I'll take it. Excellent. That's my hope. I know it's not going to happen in 2021, if ever, but that division just so
baseball. What is this baseball thing?
Yeah, it's a sports ball thing.
Yeah,
it's stuff
that's a Canadian-based podcast. So far, 2 baseball references, no hockey references.
Got shut out.
It's just
you jinxed it. There was the shutout and all.
You ruined it. Oh boy! All right, Andre, San Diego Sabers. What do you guys got coming up in 2021?
It's been a real challenge for the club because we haven't been allowed to meet, so it's been creative on trying to figure out what the club is doing and then how that
longer sabers. I'm assuming
the podcast.
6 foot long sabers. 2 meters. So sorry, not meters.
We're moving to hikes instead of sabers. So that and then we've had a complete change of leadership with Steve passing, and then Eric and his wife, which happens to be my daughter, moving to Wyoming, and then Robert Chung taking a step back from the leadership. We've rebuilt the council, the High Council and the council. So that's taken a lot of focus on that the podcast is trying to figure out. And then, we kind of just reflect on what we do as a club and then what Star Wars is doing. And we've got some exciting things happening Star Wars wise, but the club, we're probably not meeting again until spring. Summer.
I was going to kick out of Robert's take on age. As you guys were going up the episodes and he talked about episode 47, episode 48, and he's such a young little guy. And he is. He's funny as heck, though. I do love Robert. So
the color of the sky in Robert's world is just it's a beautiful thing. I love him. He's a dear friend, but his rhythm on thing is always a new take. But no, we're excited because we've been able to transition well, I think, into the digital, Zoom and Get Vocal or even Messenger stuff. Recording wise, it's just finding topics and getting everybody together. Everybody, like you mentioned in the last roundtable, everyone's just got kind of a fatigue right now. So even getting everybody together to talk is a challenge. So
yeah, absolutely. And again, but this is also my good friend Roman and I do the Roman Podcast every week. It's not Star Wars related or anything like that, and it's adult content, so don't subscribe unless you're ready for it. But we started doing this live stream thing because we were inspired by what the Rogue Squadron podcast were doing with Cody and Mopar. Mm-hmm. And I talked to them, but because we're both not Star Wars, I'm like, how do we do this? Because we're just like a broadcast. So you guys are too. And I got a lot of information from them. So we did this live streaming, and all of a sudden COVID hits, and I'm getting inundated with like podcasters from everywhere. It's like, how are you doing this? Because nobody was doing these live streams. Like, there was very few of us, and it was just this, we have to do this. How do you record when you're not in the same room? How do you it just, thankfully Roman and I are so lazy that even when I was living half an hour down the road, I wouldn't go to his house to do it. You know what I mean? So our laziness and our vanity made us, we want to do our podcast. We want everybody to see us, but I don't want to work at it. So, we figured it out. And
that's the recipe for a podcaster there, Rob. Equal parts laziness and vanity.
Exactly. So, Rob Williams, Generation X-Wing, or even if you can touch on your 501st stuff, once vaccines start happening, obviously that's going to change.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate Mopar on his new child, by the way. That's awesome.
Yes.
It was funny because last time I was on here, we talked about podcasting and how many Star Wars podcasts there were, and there wasn't a lot of stuff happening. And then all of a sudden, was it a week later? Boom. Yeah. Well, they were listening to you. That's what it is, Rob. They're listening to you, and they just drop all this. And now we're going to see the podcasting world double just with all this sort of stuff.
Yes.
As for us, I have a feeling what I expect now is going to be completely different by the end of 2021. We're still going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk about all this sort of stuff. We're still going to talk about movies and TV shows and stuff. It's just, I'm still hoping to get Paul Lee from Kim's Convenience on the show. I'm still working that hard. I would love to talk to him. And it's not just because of his Mandalorian role, but mostly because of his 501st role, which leads me into the Outer Rim Rookie. So hopefully I will be able to get my Nia Nun built. Waiting for the mask to get done. My buddy Terry Chu is working hard on that at Panda Props Costumes. Plug. He's also, I'm waiting for, like, COVID's delayed my flight suit. And so 2021, my goal is to get that costume completed. And hopefully one day we will actually troop again. We had a meeting just a couple days ago for new recruits to the Outer Rim garrison of the 501st. And it was fun seeing them again. We didn't do it live, we didn't do it in person, but it was just like, hey, I remember you. I missed this. I missed that. I missed this. We're just sharing stories. And it was, I only hit 25 troops, and I should have done that months ago, because it's just, we don't get out. It's all virtual troops now. It's not the same. So I want to get out there, and hopefully 2021, I will see that. So that's for podcasting. I enjoy doing the videos. I enjoy podcasting with my three other friends, Jamie and Neil and Steve, and who knows what it's going to be like in 2021. Jamie has taught me to drop my expectations and just kind of go with things. And that's what's going to happen. Just 6 years. Our podcast celebrating 6 years in January. Wow. So it is. It's amazing. Well, thanks. It's hard. I said this like on our 100th episode. It's really hard to keep this going. And because, as Kyle was saying, life has things in the way. We have life comes first. You have your job, you have your family, whatever. So to do this every week, like the Nerd Room does, I don't know how they do it, man. Those dudes have no life.
Well, that is the
Tim. You have no life.
There's subtitle under there.
Carlos, you have a great life. I'm not going to make fun of you. So you're the goddamn Batman.
Marc Godsiff. What do you got? Again, I'm not going to say anything, but I don't want to spew information that can't be said. So you got stuff coming. You got irons in the fire.
There's some stuff going on.
But can we expect anything in 2021 or announcements in the coming year? Everybody, this is terrible podcast because everybody's like, "Hey, just say it." I'm like, "No."
Yeah, no. At the moment, I don't know anything. So I've spent this year working on something.
Yep.
Not alone, with a couple of creative friends, and working very hard. And we're waiting for other people at the moment to give us some feedback. So I can't really discuss what that's about.
Nope.
Mandalorian season 3.
It's very exciting. Yeah, the Marc DeLorean. In terms of podcasting, I'm going to try and stay on the wagon, but I am open to doing this more often, Rob, if you need a mic filled. I'm trying to spare myself the work that goes into doing what you chaps do all the time, because I know how that feels.
It is something, isn't it? So while I have you on the mic, I'm going to go around the horn real quick so people can tell us where to find you. I know your social media presence is not what it used to be.
No, there is a Twitter account, and I suppose this is going to go out to our close sort of community, isn't it? Really. So I'm SW Vintage Toy on Twitter, and it's mainly just me sort of nerding out over vintage Star Wars action figures, which, as we've discussed, Rob, is your fault.
Yeah, apparently.
I went from having nothing to having a full-on addiction after spending a weekend with you in Orlando. So,
yeah, and he's talking about collecting toys, not anything
and
else.
The toys as well.
Not drugs or women or anything. No, we don't. No, we're not. And if you look over, people watching the live stream, if you look over my left shoulder, you'll see. Remember when I just wanted Bespin Luke?
Yeah.
Well, I finished my New Hope run, and basically it's all loose characters, 3 3/4 characters with original accessories or weapons. That's my bar. They can be enjoyed, but not like completely all the paint taken off them. You have to recognize what figure it is, and they have to have their original weapon and their original accessories. So I finished my New Hope, my Empire, and then I'm a little bit way into my Return of the Jedi.
Do you want to see?
Basically,
if I just move slightly, Rob.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot more than what you had.
You did that. I paid for that. It needs to be said, but you did that.
Wow, that flight to Orlando was really expensive.
Yeah, it was. And I don't know who knows the story. Probably not many people. It was a very long time ago. But when I was in Orlando with Rob and he was trying to get this Bespin Luke, I said, "Do you think I really want to buy like just a couple, maybe just the droids, just a couple of," and he said,
"Yeah, you wanted 3PO and R2,
yeah,
and then maybe a Farm Boy Luke."
Yes, mate. See, you could already see me starting down that slippery slope, and I said to him, "All right, I think I might do. I need to just check with Lisa, my wife. I need to just check before I do anything." Thinking she's going to say no and shut it down straight away. So I got home and I video called her and I said, "Look, Rob's got me onto this. He wants me to buy some." She said, "Yeah, do it." Oh God, I couldn't get. No one would support me. And suddenly,
yeah, there you go.
Enablers.
I've come to the realization in this podcasting thing, or this friendly neighborhood that we've built. If you ask people, should I spend my money on this? 100% of the time, they will say yes.
And then they'll show you how to do it.
Don't even ask them. Yeah, exactly.
All right, Kyle, where can the good people find you and your show and all the other good stuff?
You can come join us in our closed Facebook group. The Tumblingsaber Facebook group is always a good time. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter. Those are the two best places to find myself and the podcast.
Fantastic. Andre?
You can find me. My Twitter account is podcast_SDS because all the other iterations of that wasn't available. And then to find about the club and the podcast, San Diego Sabers.life.
Excellent. Rob,
I just subscribed to your place, Star Wars Vintage Toy Collector YouTube.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Kyle.
No, Mark's page. So
nobody subscribes to
me. Kyle who? Yeah, for me, Generation X-Wing. We are on Instagram, Twitter. We have our YouTube channel where you can find the Outer Rim Rookie show, where I'm building my Nyan Nun costume. Call it whatever you want. Also, we have other stuff there like vlogs and Instagram, Outer Rim Rookie, Instagram, Generation X-Wing. I'm all over the place with this one. So hopefully a lot of fun. Subscribe to me on YouTube, get the channel put up, get the channel known a little bit more. I have a cardboard 100 subs I made for myself for YouTube. One day I'd like to work to maybe actually getting a real one, but that'd be nice. So.
Fantastic. All right, you can find myself. I am at Robert MMCast on Twitter and Instagram. If you're on Instagram and you use the hashtag RobsR2, you'll see it's been dormant for a long time. But when we were allowed to go outside, I And I finished my R2 last November. So I had like a month or two where I took them out. And if people take pictures with them, I always just say, hey, if you're going to post on social media, use hashtag Rob's R2 and you can see his adventures. Please don't poo-poo my hashtag because I like it. So, but yeah, if you want to see my R2, you can go to that hashtag Rob's R2.
There it is.
There's my R2. Yeah, he's just up. He lives upstairs. Where else can you find me? Oh yeah, Roman Podcast. It's a weekly show. It's not Star Wars. It is not for kids, but it's if you're into a laugh. Hey, check it out. You can check out episode 249. Not sure when this is going to drop, but 249 is our greatest hits, volume 5. Believe it or not, I take clips from every episode throughout the year, and in between Christmas and New Year's, during this time. So I don't have to podcast. Well, I'm podcasting now. I don't have to podcast with Roman. So we get a break from each other. We put out our clip show, and it's censored. The greatest hit shows, volumes 1 through 5, you have to look them up. They're the censored ones, but please still do not listen to them with kids in the car. They're suggestive. Just because the words are bleeped doesn't mean, anyway.
My 6-year-old still talks about punching lasagna and he won't stop. There's a deep cut from Roman.
That is a very deep cut. I think I'm having lasagna tonight, actually. So yeah, check that out. That's every Wednesday. And again, for all the other good stuff. And remember, I implore you, this is going out on Talk Star Wars. Rob Wade and I, we're very much still a couple. We're just seeing other people. No, all joking aside, no, we're still, there's no falling out. There's no nothing. It's just, we're taking this show on its own little side direction. So we're going to be releasing simultaneously on Talk Star Wars and under the Star Wars Commonwealth Plus podcast own feed. But eventually that simultaneous releases will end. So if you love the show, or if you like the show, or if you're okay about the show, it doesn't matter. Subscribe to us on all the places, Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you want to find us. We're out there. So until next time, gentlemen, thank you so
Rob.
Much. This is great. Marc Godsiff, you only got a few more hours before you got to start kissing your wife or somebody, or Poppy or whatever. I don't know how you ring in the new year.
Or both. Why either or?
Or
Why
both.
Not both? Yeah, 6 hours and counting.
6 hours and counting. So let us know. You're the first one of us to get out of this.
Yeah, I've already checked with Matt, and nothing terrible happens because obviously he's
Matt from Australia.
He's in the future. Yeah, I told him.
I've checked with him too.
I told him no spoilers, but he said everything's fine. So.
Everything's fine. That's fantastic. So again, for Mark and Rob and Andre and Kyle, I'm Rob Casta. Thank you so much for joining us this New Year's Eve, and all the best for 2021. See you later.